There are a ton of exotic weapons and armor pieces in Destiny that have special benefits when paired together. Like, did you know that stacking a particular exotic with Heir Apparent can help you survive a sniper headshot in PvP? Or did you know that you can supercharge Ace of Spades for even more massive explosions with a particular chest piece? We're about to explore 33 of these amazing combos, and the synergies will get crazier and crazier as the video goes on. Let's start with Quicksilver Storm, which is a really fun exotic auto rifle that shoots mini rockets as you land hits. When you land multiple rockets, you earn a grenade charge which you can then deploy after holding the reload button. These are great by themselves, but the synergy comes from the strand flavor that gets imparted from the exotic catalyst. When you get a kill with these special grenades, it creates a strand tangle. This makes it an amazing pairing with the Warlock exotic boots, Swarmers. These boots create a threadling every time you destroy a tangle. So just by getting a kill with one of the Quicksilver grenades and then shooting it, you can summon some strand buddies to go fight for you. It's pretty cool. Warlocks have some fancy boots called Rain of Fire, which buffs fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles. Most importantly, kills make you instantly radiant, which gives you a nice damage boost. Well, Vex MYTHOCLAST is technically counting as a fusion rifle, so it benefits from these boots. It's a great pick in PvE for many activities, but people are really sleeping on the power of this thing in PvP. When you get just a single kill with Vex, you already get bonus stats and a damage boost. But when you pair this with Rain of Fire and a Solar subclass, you get that Radiant bonus which stacks and can actually reduce your shots to kill in PvP with the Vex. This is a nasty setup for 6v6 modes in particular, where there's a lot of targets available to boost up that already powerful Vex. If you like generating your super really fast, then this next one's for you. Doomfang Pauldrons on a Titan give you a large chunk of your Void super energy just for landing a charged melee hit. So all you need to do to exploit this is to get your melee back really quickly. I wonder if there's an exotic weapon that could help with this. Ooh, how about Monte Carlo? Just by landing hits with this thing, you'll rapidly refill your melee energy, and occasionally if you get lucky, you'll be granted a full melee charge instantly. Plus, when you get a melee kill, you'll instantly max out the damage bonus at 5 stacks just like you have Swashbuckler. You're going to profit from a lot of bubbles or a lot of Sentinel supers, whichever one you prefer. If Doomfang and Void Titan isn't up your alley, then you might be interested in something a bit more explosive. Well, the chest piece Severance Enclosure creates a giant explosion on powered melee kills, like for example throwing your hammer at something. Of course, on a Solar Titan you can just go pick up that hammer and get your melee charge back right away, but what about for the other subclasses? Maybe you want to throw one of those Arc Captain Falcon punches at your enemies and watch them explode everything nearby. Naturally, Monte Carlo can help you here to recharge your melee abilities super fast after you've deployed that powerful melee. Of course, Titans aren't the only class that can benefit from the melee charge provided from Monte Carlo. Warlocks have a few nice options to take advantage of this auto rifle. Probably the most straightforward combo is Claws of Ahamkara, which just straight up gives you an extra melee charge. Monte Carlo can help you get those charges back really fast after you spent them, which is really helpful on basically any subclass. But maybe you want something a bit more interesting to experiment with. Well, the Warlock exotic Fellwinter's Helm creates a burst of energy that weakens anything nearby when you kill your target with a powered melee attack. And it does an even longer and wider reaching effect when you kill more powerful enemies. And your friend Monte Carlo can give that melee charge back right away to keep dishing out those huge weakening melees as often as you'd like. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite class, the Hunter. They can combine the Monte Carlo with the gloves Athos' Embrace. When you land 3 headshots, you'll throw a weighted knife that's powerful enough to kill in just a body shot in PvP, and it can also help take down some champions in PvE. Luckily with Solar 3.0 and the right build, you can get your knives back automatically if you land a kill, but what happens if you miss? Well, Monte Carlo can help you get that next powerful knife back much faster without even needing to dodge near an enemy, and since it fires so quickly, charging up those stacks on your gloves is a breeze. While we're on the topic of Hunter exotic gloves, let's take a look at CALIBAN'S hand. These greatly improve one of your other knife options, the explosive proximity knife. Using these gloves makes your knife provide substantially more scorch stacks, which can then help you get an ignition. These are fantastic all on their own, but these days we have a few exotics that can help make the job even easier. The first one you might be thinking about is Skyburner's Oath. This is a scout rifle that's extra good against Cabal, and it can scorch enemies with its hipfire mode. If you land a CALIBAN'S proximity knife against a tankier enemy and then hit them with a few Skyburner shots, you'll trigger an ignition that will kill anything nearby. But perhaps the better combo is with a different scout rifle. One of my favorites, Polaris Lance. Polaris has a special effect that makes the music theory nerd in me very happy. Landing 4 perfect crits will load up a more powerful bullet, the perfect 5th. This explosive bullet applies scorch to the target, and if you hit them with a CALIBAN'S proximity knife before firing it, you'll likely cause an ignition that will wipe out anything nearby. With this setup, Polaris becomes a really effective tool for taking on solo content like more difficult lost sectors. It's a really fun combo, and personally I feel like Polaris is much more useful than Skyburners in general. The good old Graviton Lance recently received a massive buff and now it's become kind of a problem. So what do? Well, we enjoy being part of the problem, of course. Just look at the background gameplay and see how I'm blowing up these rooms with little to no effort. If you want to do the same, just combine Graviton with a strong Void build and use the Nezarec Sin exotic helmet. That way you can also benefit from some really fast ability cooldowns, including your super. I know Nova Bomb isn't the most popular thing out there for DPS right now, but it's still a decent damage super, especially if you get to throw them quite often. This is a pretty strong build for endgame content, and if you want even more raw damage output, perhaps to deal with those tanky yellow bars, then you could swap out the helmet for the Verity's Brow. This will make your grenades deal even more damage after getting a Void weapon kill, and it's particularly good in group content to buff up your teammates. Whichever way you go, these setups are great for anyone who wants to enjoy some maximum Void explosions. Trinity Ghoul is an exotic bow that allows you to chain lightning to a ton of enemies with the Lightning Rod perk. With its catalyst, arc kills will allow you to get those supercharged arrows to easily wipe a ton of enemies in PvE or PvP. And Titans can activate that Lightning Rod perk even if they don't have any abilities charged up. You can use the exotic boots Dune Marchers to run around and build up that linear actuator perk. Then just find an enemy to punch and anyone who's close enough will take damage from that chain lightning. If they die, you'll charge up your Lightning Rod arrows to kickstart the Trinity Ghoul montage. It's one of the easiest and most fun ways to kill huge groups of enemies in Destiny. Maybe you need to melt a boss, but you're running kinda low on special and heavy ammo. Well, what if I told you that you can use your hand cannon as a solid DPS option? With the Hunter Exotic Boots Lucky Pants, you can get yourself an absolutely massive damage boost to any hand cannon after you draw it out. While using Lucky Pants, you can swap to your hand cannon of choice to earn a stacking damage buff for landing critical shots for a short duration. Exotic hand cannons can deal a ton of damage with this bonus and really do some work in PvE. This one works with any hand cannon, and it's quite fun to use the last word to roleplay as a true space cowboy with some serious firepower. Crimson also works exceptionally well too with how quickly it fires that burst of bullets to ramp up the bonus damage. And it's particularly powerful with Malfeasance thanks to its high rate of fire along with a huge magazine and that champion busting effect. Luckily, this damage bonus doesn't work in PvP, which would be incredibly broken, but for PvE it's a really viable setup to deal some big damage with a primary weapon. Okay, this next one is a very unique pairing and you'll have to let this one sink in before you can fully understand it. So first point, high ground is definitely desirable in PvP. I think we can agree on that one. Trust me, getting high ground is usually a big advantage. But how do you get to the high ground if there's no hill in sight? Well, that's where Armamentarium comes in clutch. With the Behemoth subclass, you get 2 Glacier Grenades, so you can literally build your own high ground. Now with the advantage obtained, you can exploit your superior positioning to the maximum by using a sniper rifle which can wipe out an entire team in just one bullet, Cloud Strike. Maybe you're starting to see how this one makes sense. It's a really tricky combo for getting some really tricky clips. Shout out to my friend Logistics Officer who has some of the nastiest spots in Destiny to take advantage of this setup. He literally uses this combo to climb up the church tower on Widow's Court and get some collateral kills. With the competitive scene in Destiny being so dire these days, going for clips is one of the rare things which is still really fun to do in Destiny, and getting some of the funny kills with these wild angles is one of the best ways to do it. By the way, if you need some help hitting your shots while you're up there, maybe try out one of the new mouse pads from my new gaming products company, Ember Edge. Of course, I'm biased, but I think we make the best mouse pads on the market right now for FPS games, and tons of other Destiny content creators are using them every day to hit some nasty clips. They offer a perfect blend between speed and control, and if you want to learn more, just head over to emberedge.com. Here's a nifty trick. Use the ICEFALL mantle on a Titan together with the Heir Apparent machine gun for some absolutely massive damage resistance. ICEFALL mantle trades your barricade for an overshield that you can then pop on demand. You can't run around while you have the overshield up, but that's not a big deal considering we're not going to be moving particularly fast with the Heir Apparent anyway. With this combo of damage resistance, you can actually survive an arc high impact sniper rifle headshot. And without either of these two things working, you're definitely headed to the spawn screen. Void Hunters have been using the GYRFALCON'S HAUBERK for a while now as a top tier choice. With the right build, you can be invisible almost constantly. You get your health back when you pick up a Void Breach, and enemies you attack become volatile and then explode. It's easily one of my favorite setups in the game. And one exotic trace rifle makes this even crazier. WAVESPLITTER has a special benefit that whenever you pick up an orb, it ramps up the power of the beam to maximum instantly. And with the volatile effect on enemies, it doesn't take too long for them to go boom. Plus, there are many ways to use this combo to create orbs non-stop, so you'll be at the maximum power on WAVESPLITTER all the time. It's one of the most fun and powerful PvE setups in the game right now for solo players, and if you haven't tried it yet, you're really missing out. If you've been playing Destiny for a while, you're probably familiar with the classic helmet worn by Saint 14. As a Titan wearing this helmet, you instantly blind enemies who walk through your bubble. This is pretty funny in PvP and incredibly useful in some PvE scenarios. But did you know that you can extend this effect to a glaive? Specifically Edge of Action, which is the exotic glaive exclusive to the Titan class. This glaive has the ability to produce a mini protective bubble similar to the Ward of Dawn super, and if you wear the Helm of Saint 14 when you produce this mini bubble, it will blind enemies inside just like it does for the regular bubble super. Pretty cool. The exotic trace rifle Coldheart has a little secret up its sleeve that most players don't know about. As you fire it on target and it lands hits, the beam will charge up to deal more damage. Most people know about that part, but did you know that the time it takes for the damage to ramp up can actually be shortened by collecting an arc trace? These are the little beams of arc energy that come towards you along the ground after you deliver an arc ability kill. Well, the ramp up time is slightly reduced, making the gun even more potent. And this naturally pairs with any exotic that helps us create those arc traces more easily. My favorite one is Getaway Artist. You can consume your grenade to instantly become amplified and then spawn a souped up little arc buddy. Then the kills that you get with your little mini auto turret will create an arc trace and count as an ability kill. This is incredible because once you're amplified, you can jolt nearby enemies with a kill and absolutely melt those jolted enemies. I spent a ton of time with friends testing this to try to understand exactly how it works, and honestly, I'm still a bit stumped, so maybe you can help me out with a comment if you understand it. I'm not 100% sure if it works by just being amplified or if you actually need to collect one of the traces, and also I'm not really sure if this thing ramps up in PvP or not. It's possible that the target just dies way too fast for it to matter. But sometimes when I was using this combo, I was getting insane kills. Like, just watch how fast I melted the second guy in this clip. I think what happens is that the first guy's death jolts the second one, and then the beam charge up transfers, and with the ramped up damage against the jolted target, they die in just a few hits. Either way, it's pretty fun in both PvE and PvP, and I highly recommend that you give it a shot. I feel like Warlocks are maybe a bit OP because they seem to have a ton of these cool combos. No Time to Explain is an exotic pulse rifle that spawns a little time portal buddy after you land 10 headshots, and it deals some very helpful extra damage. If you throw on the same Getaway Artist gloves though and consume your grenade, your juiced up little arc buddy will actually stack with the No Time buddy to have two pals up at the same time. The damage that they deal together can be pretty significant, and they might even be better than the random blueberry teammates that Bungie gives you in PvP. Getaway Artists also have a really cool interaction with the new auto rifle Centrifuse. I love the style of this gun when we first got our hands on it, and it has a little bit of the vibes of the old Zahalo Supercell from Destiny 1 for those of you who might remember that one. When you slide, sprint, or just fire this weapon, you slowly build up an electrostatic charge that improves weapon performance. And when this charge really builds up, final blows will cause an explosion that wipes out an entire room, plus a blinding effect at a maximum charge. With the Catalyst, you can build up this charge merely by being amplified in the ARC 3.0 subclass system. Well, one of the easiest ways to become amplified in the entire game is just to consume your grenade with Getaway Artist. This immediately starts building up that charge and makes the gun so much more fun to use. Titans also have an interesting way to use this exotic auto rifle. It's a really fun weapon to use until you run out of bullets and you need to reload. Of course, you can just slide and sprint around to partially refill the magazine, and that's kind of the way that Bungie intended things. But what if we had an exotic that barely even required you to move around and still keep blasting your enemies with arc explosions? The Titan chest piece ACTIUM war rig automatically refills your equipped auto rifle whenever you fire it with a partial reload. So just by firing your weapon, you'll keep that static charge built up, and if you throw in a sprint or a slide here and there, you basically never have to reload. It's a really fun way to use this already awesome weapon. Of course, the comment section would never let me hear the end of it if I didn't mention the best combo with ACTIUM war rig. Sweet Business is a minigun auto rifle that ramps up its fire rate when you hold on the trigger. It's great fun to use all by itself, but the bummer is that normally you run out of bullets pretty fast since it fires so quickly. But ACTIUM war rig auto refills the magazine partially while you're firing it, and with such a large magazine, you can fire it nearly all day long on a single reload. It's a classic combo in Destiny 2, and it's a lot of fun if you're just looking for a chuckle. Rat King makes you invisible when you reload after a kill, which can be really helpful for staying alive in sketchy situations. But it gets even better when you pair it with the Hunter exotic chest piece Omnioculus. Becoming invisible while wearing this chest piece will give you damage resistance, and luckily this works even with the Rat King reload method as well. This is great in PvE for staying alive, but maybe even stronger in PvP. While you're invisible, certain combinations like 3 headshots from a 140 RPM hand cannon can't even kill you. And if you run around with a few buddies using the same setup, you're going to have a very annoying fire team to match in PvP. Tommy's matchbook overheats the longer you hold down the trigger. This damages you in the process, but it also deals some bonus damage. Of course, as Destiny players, we like dealing bonus damage, but when it comes to the cost of our health, that's kind of a risky proposition. Luckily, Titans have an exotic that synergizes nicely to mitigate some of this risk. The helmet Loreley Splendor automatically creates a sunspot for you whenever you break your shield as long as you have your barricade charged up. These sunspots provide the restoration buff when you enter them, so while Tommy's is burning your health down, restoration will actually fight back to heal you up. It's not the most practical setup for endgame content, but it's a pretty fun combo to play around with when things are a bit stale. Hunters can take advantage of some exotic synergies when using the exotic gloves Oathkeepers. These gloves allow you to hold a perfect draw forever and even get a damage bonus in PvE for waiting to release that arrow. It's probably most useful as a combination with Le Monarque. Usually with this bow, you need to time a perfect draw and release to get that poison effect to proc whenever you land your shot. But with Oathkeepers, you can keep that arrow drawn perfectly all day long. This allows you to run around with the bow ready to fire anytime you want, and as soon as you find an enemy, you're guaranteed to get that poison effect to proc on a headshot. Ariana's Vow is a hand cannon that consumes special ammo, and honestly, it's kind of a questionable choice in PvP, but with the right setup, you can sometimes secure a kill in just a single bullet. If you pair it with the Warlock chest piece Sanguine Alchemy and a Solar subclass, you can stand in an Empowering Rift and deal enough damage to one-shot kill a low resilience Guardian. Plus, if you manage to land that kill, it will extend how long your rift is active to give you some additional chances to pull off some extra kills. This is basically the Counter-Strike 1D equivalent in Destiny. The Titan Exotic Gloves feedback fences have a funny interaction with glaives. Regular melee hits with the glaive's primary attack will actually count towards stacks of Fury Conductor. Whenever you take a melee hit, the fences will fight back with an AoE attack that damages any enemies nearby. Plus, you can take advantage of the glaive shield while blocking, so you don't even take damage while you're getting meleeed. It's not the most practical setup for difficult content, but it's pretty funny to try. I had the most fun pairing this with the Excalibur glaive to take advantage of that void over shield while blocking attacks. If you hit an enemy with a necrotic grip melee on a Warlock, you'll actually deal quite a lot of total damage over time. The nice thing is you can actually spread this damage from afar by using any weapon of sorrow like Thorn or Osteos Driga. That way you don't have to actually punch anything and you can still enjoy the massive damage spread to a lot of different combatants very quickly. These are both fantastic options for clearing large groups of enemies with ease. This next one is a classic, but it's a really good one, and I wanted to remind you just how powerful this one is in case you missed it. The exotic hand cannon Lumina produces noble rounds whenever you get a kill that float back to you just like the Thorn hand cannon. You can then hipfire them at teammates to give a damage boost to both of you and also to heal your teammate. Boots of the Assembler though allow you to generate these noble rounds merely by standing in a rift. You'll see that noble round counter showing up on the left side of your screen in your buff section, and then you can hipfire them at teammates just like the normal ones you generate from Lumina, giving your entire team a large damage buff and also healing them on demand with a great all-around hand cannon is a super powerful combo. This next combo is easily a personal favorite of mine. Ace of Spades usually just creates one big explosion from a precision kill thanks to its Firefly perk, but if you slap on the Chromatic Fire Warlock chest piece, it deals an additional huge explosion. This can grant you some massive multi-kill collaterals in PvP and wipe out huge groups of enemies easily in PvE. It's probably the most fun way to use one of the strongest hand cannons in the entire game. AGER'S Scepter is one of the coolest exotics in the game, no pun intended. It's a really powerful stasis trace rifle, and by using the right exotic armor piece we can make it even stronger. The main goal here is to get your super back really quickly so that you can enjoy the stronger beam with the alternate fire mode. So how do we do that? Well, two ways. The first one would be using the fragment Whisper of Bonds. This one gives you super energy just for killing frozen enemies. That's really easy to accomplish just by using the subclass in AGER'S Scepter. If you use Ice Flare Bolts, the turret, and just the default perk on AGER'S, you'll quickly have the whole room frozen and you'll get a bunch of super energy really fast. But if that's not fast enough for you, you can also rock the Mantle of Battle Harmony for even more super energy on kill. Once you have your super full, you'll instead get a nice damage boost on AGER'S just for landing a kill. And then when you activate the alternate fire mode, you'll transform AGER'S into a mega powerful beam of stasis energy. Your super will start to drain, but as long as you keep getting kills, you're going to easily gain your super bar back faster than the catalyst can drain it. And as soon as you run out of enemies, just change it back to the normal mode and you'll quickly get back to a full super again. It's a great build and you can even use it for some higher end content. Up next, check out my video on 43 weapons that define the Destiny 2 PvE meta over the years. It's linked on screen and in the description.